one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, what an absolutely beautiful day. Just thank you for this day, the week that's expected ahead, and just thank you for spring and for new beginnings again. And we just thank you for this evening and for this meeting and for every individual in this room and even more so every individual in this entire community. We're blessed beyond measure, and help us continue to take stock of all that we have, that we've been blessed with, versus that which we don't feel like we have, or that which we feel like should be ours. Instead, help us come to you with a grateful heart, with a thankful heart, and to love one another, and to give to one another, and to look out for one another, and to truly be a community, and be one that represents you in all that we do and say and think. We give you all the thanks and praise and glory. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen. Amy, if you would, roll call.
Gary Elliott.
Here.
Bob Leahy.
Here.
Jason Brewer.
Here.
Tim Heiss.
Here.
And Peter Frias.
Here.
All right. I trust you've had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Do you have any questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Consent agenda approved as presented. We do have a special presenter on the agenda tonight. We're very fortunate to have Mr. Darby Livingston with Roots. And so, Darby, if you don't mind, I will turn the floor over to you.
That was fast. Well, I'm really not supposed to be here, but I feel like I should be. This is not the arena in which I typically operate, in which my family likes to operate. We're just not public people like that, even though we are constantly in the public. It's not in this kind of an environment. We deliberately avoid this kind of an environment. But for probably too long, we've been quiet and not given any explanation of our side or perspective on things, not really told our story. And I continue to hear our name brought up in public, in official situations. And so I feel like probably I need to own the decision that we made to partner with the city. And as uncomfortable and embarrassing as it is for me to stand here and try to talk, that's what should happen. If I want you guys to own the decisions that you make as representatives, I should own the decision I make as a small business owner. And I make the decision to be part of this community in a unique way. And so this is me taking ownership of that. I think that this would be just the non-solicited suggestion. If it would be so cool if, like, you say the prayer and the pledge, if like every meeting one of you guys would give like a 5-minute civics lesson. Like, today we're going to talk about what a representative is. Today we're going to talk about what a taxpayer is. Today we're like, because so much of what gets brought up in the community, I think, is just sometimes just ignorance. Like, you don't know how it works, and you know just enough of how it works to be dangerous if you start talking, or and so in my mind, where we've come from is, some people might think, oh, Livingstons are, they're so wrapped up with the city and this public-private partnership type thing or whatever. I am an anarchist. Like, I mean, I'm the one that believes that everybody should be responsible, like to push your own cart back to the thing in Walmart and stuff. Like, you should self-govern. Like, I think we should have as small a government as possible, but no smaller, and as big of a government as necessary, but no bigger. Like, and that usually is where all the disagreement comes. That right there in the middle of that. Like, what does that mean exactly? And so, what I'm about to say are things that I think might solve some people's misconceptions. Like, there's been this narrative spread around that somehow we are like deadbeat grifters sucking on the public coffers, you know, like that is not what has happened at all. It's not what's happening now, and I'll try to lay that out. To me, I think that if I vote for council or mayor or whoever, anybody, if I go and I vote, I'm voting for the people that I think are going to do the best job representing me and my values. And then I just get out of the way and I let you do it. I'm not the one you see in here. I'm not the one you see on social media. I'm not the one you hear blowing up your phone or your texts and saying, where's this? Where's action on that? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Why? Because you're my representatives. I trust you. If I didn't trust you, I wouldn't have voted for you. So I don't want to have to do your job. And so here's what's disappointing to me is that I have to come in here and share tonight because things that are spoken by unelected people I'm hearing in this room. And it's like, I didn't ask for that. We don't deserve that. And hopefully by the time I'm done presenting, you'll agree. But I just feel like if you do anything, if you're creative and you create something, you're inviting confrontation. So we understand it. If you start a business, if we have a certain barbecue sauce or a different menu item or a different way of doing something, you're inviting confrontation. People are going to have something to say about it. You want that because how else will you ever make money? They have to notice, and if they notice, they're going to say something. So that's not what I'm talking about. This is not a pity party. This is me trying to get to the root of why we are continually brought up according to talking points on discussion pages and rumors and slander. We have had our integrity slandered. We've had our motives questioned. We've had our competence challenged. I mean, all of these things. And all we are guilty of doing is trying to run a small business in a small town. That's all we're doing. That's all we've ever done. And so, you know, I'm not going to blame anyone or speak for anyone. I can't speak for anything that the city has done or decisions that you guys have made. All I can do is speak from my perspective, the decisions that we made and the understanding that we have had as we've done it. And so that's kind of where I want to go. The problem is in order to, you know, explain it, it's going to be almost like a defense. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to defend us. I'm not trying to, you know, that's not the issue. The issue for me is the people that don't like us. I don't know why they don't like us. I've never talked to them. They don't talk to me. They don't call me. They talk about me. They don't talk to me. I don't know. I'm not going to change their mind. And right now, probably they're already on social media and everything, commenting and tagging along. And I mean, that's just life, right? We have a lot of customers, loyal customers that love what we do. They know that we love them and we just want to serve them. And they are probably always going to give us the benefit of the doubt. So I'm not here for them. I'm here for all of the ones that aren't our customers, maybe wonder what in the world is going on here. What is the situation with Roots and with their relationship with the city we don't know. We're not going to ask. We're not going to get on the discussion page. We're not going to go to a council meeting and ask. We're just going to sit back and wonder. And so really I'm here for them, like all of the unspoken, most people that probably just hear through the grapevine things and wonder, like, is that true, or what's actually happening? And so in my mind, I want to have I just have a few points. I want to give like the historical context of doing business in Union City right now, in any small town right now. It's not easy. Like, no business is just thriving right now. The only ones that even survive right now are the 150-year-old legacy companies that they're so big that like they can absorb quite a few hits. But even they're not, thriving. Like, nobody is thriving right now. So the smaller the business, probably the less the thriving. The less established the business, the more risk. And so when we decided to start hospitality, get into hospitality, we didn't go in with blinders on. We knew what that means. Hospitality startups, most startups, they'll say 3 to 5 years. Most hospitality startups, restaurants, best case scenario in the best locations, you're looking at 3 years to 5 years before you're going to become profitable. I mean, that's just like industry standard. That's probably not catching anybody off guard. They probably read or heard that before. But maybe what you haven't heard is you also need revenue per square foot. That's the magic number that just, it almost never lies. Like I have been arrogant enough to think that I'm going to be the one to beat that with just the force of my personality and awesome pizza. Like, you're not going to do it. If you've got a 6,000 square foot building, like, yeah, you need $1 million a year to run that. Well, it ain't hard to figure out. Well, why does a business fail like that after a few years? Because you run out of money. Like, something has to make up that gap. Well, yeah, that's the reality that we've been living in, trying to just do these startups, and that's on us. That's our own issue, our own fault. And we've talked about that in our podcast and stuff. Like, we tried to figure those out and did after action reviews and tried to be very transparent and honest about like where we thought we failed and where we think we could do better and those kind of things. So I won't get into that here. But what I'm saying here is it takes about $150 to $200 per square foot of revenue to break even. And so that's pretty much anywhere like that. You're going to have some variations based on cost of living and things like that, but generally I'm paying for raw materials, the goods that I need to prepare food. I'm paying the same roughly as what anybody is paying in Indianapolis or Chicago. I'm paying the same thing here. So there's certain costs that you're just not going to get. You're not getting the advantage because you live in a small town. Like, some advantages are, but not all. But you're still going to be right in that $150 to $200 range. So in other words, if you have a 2,000 square foot building, it's going to take like $300,000 to $400,000 a year in revenue to break even. You'll have a hard time living without generating that. Now, I mean, that's just, and I'm talking hospitality. So I mean, a store or something might be different. Those figures might be different. But in a restaurant, that's pretty much what you're looking at. And so that's a lot of money. That's doing serious business, even in a small town. Now, I think that most of the businesses in town are struggling. Many of them have gone out of business. They've closed down. The ones that are here and are holding on, I mean, God love them. I respect the daylights out of them. I mean, how can you not? Like, every day getting up and knowing, okay, well, we're going to try to survive another day. Like, that's a love. That's a labor of love for your community, for your business, for your family, for your legacy, your heritage. Like, it goes beyond money why people do those kind of things. But I just feel like it shouldn't shock anyone that businesses are struggling. Like, it shouldn't shock anyone. Why are they having a hard time? Where's the profits going? What profits? What profits? There are no profits. Like, we're a startup in an area that is difficult to operate in. And so then the question would become, well, then why do it? But why do it at all then? Why do it here? And that's been asked. Tito, you mentioned that. Well, is there some kind of business counseling or something that we could help with these small business owners and things like that, and some entrepreneurial classes or whatever? There are, and every one of them would say, don't do anything in Union City. That's the reality of it. I've been advised that. Like, why are you doing this? Like, you could go somewhere else. You could do something else. And so, but here's the thing. We don't want to. This is our hometown. And this is where we love, and this is where we're going to stay, and so this is what we want to do. And so, for us, along with a lot of people, I think that I know in town that have just invested their life here, they've raised their kids here, they've invested money here, time here, their heart. It's painful to want to think about closing something or leaving or. So you're going to figure out ways to make it work. I mean, that's what you're going to do if you love your town. And so, in my mind, if I love the town, and I know the vision that was presented when Chad became mayor, and I bought into that hook, line, and sinker. And we've been in the hook. We've extended the line, and now I feel like we're getting the sinker of it. But no, I'm just kidding. That was a little joke. That was more for my calm my nerves than anybody else's. So, but when we first considered doing something in that building that has been the deli, I'll just for convenience sake call it that because that's what people would know it by right now. When we first considered that space, we had all the same people that would say, are you going to buy the building? Are they going to sell it? I mean, it was for sale forever, probably 10 years. I mean, all those buildings right there were all for sale at some point all along. And, it was one of those things like, well, here's the issue that I had with that. I didn't want to be the person that would buy a building, even if the city sold it for $1, and then had to figure out how do you keep it from leaking? How do you keep termites from eating the floor out? How do you keep the basement from flooding? And then eventually, like so many people and business owners and buildings in town, you're like, well, God, I can't even afford to keep this thing up. And so your choices are, okay, you buy the building, and then you consider, okay, well, now I have this asset, but really it's a liability because, like, now I got this asset. Careful what you wish for. Like, now I have to maintain it and keep it up and all that. Or I got to feel bad because my neighbors are driving by and it's an eyesore or whatever, and I can't afford to do anything with it because that's the reality of being in a small town. And so I was happy with the notion that a different entity would own the buildings. I was very pleased with that arrangement because we did not want to be responsible for the destruction or the slow death of another downtown building or another building in town somewhere. Like, that was not our goal. And so if there was a way that it would make more sense that we would never have it on the asset side of our business ledger, we felt better about that than if we could have bought it. And I'm just telling you right now, instead of any kind of phone call or question, hey, I think that was probably a good idea. Instead, it's you're taking advantage of the city. You're taking advantage of taxpayers. Because I didn't buy the buildings for far less than the money that we have actually put into those buildings, that we will never get out as assets. We will get out, we invested into those buildings, and we're not going to get that money out of those buildings other than through use. That's the only way that we're getting any of the investment that we've made in town. It's the only way we're getting that investment, any chance of getting it back, is through use. Because it's not on the asset side of our ledger. You know where the asset side of the ledger is on? Whatever entity owns it. And I don't even know who that is. I'm an anarchist. I don't care. I don't want to know. I'm joking. But barely. I don't know the entity that actually owns the building. I don't need to know the entity that owns the building. Yet, the building has our fingerprints all over it. The building has our heart and soul poured into it. And here's the thing. What gets incentivized gets done. And here's the issue. I heard the straw that broke the camel's back for me was, I'm sitting down, eating dinner, have the council meeting. I usually just have it on. I don't usually pay a whole lot of attention to it, but just I have it on, and it's on kind of low. But I heard our name brought up. And then I heard some awkwardness about some utility bills. And then nothing else. So that's where it's left. Like, oh, well, deadbeat roots, once again, taking advantage of the city and the taxpayer and the coffers, as though we're not taxpayers. We pay lots of taxes. But yeah, there they are, taking advantage of the city again and not paying their bills. And okay, what gets incentivized gets done. When we agreed and bought into that vision of a nice space in the downtown, I said from the beginning, that's going to be a tough one. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do anything other than the $3 omelet diner. In Union City, we are looking ahead to the future. Because I said that multiple times to people in this room, that what the city can currently afford is a $3 omelet. But what we're trying to build and get to is not that. But sometimes in order to build and get there, you have to have something more than the $3 omelet to give somebody the idea that, hey, there's more capability here than a $3 omelet. Now, I'm not dismissing the $3 omelet. I'm just saying the $3 omelet is already well taken care of in this town by respectable people. It's already here. And so that wasn't what was designed. That wasn't the goal, as I understood it. And so when we agreed to this, we were going by a vision for the future, knowing that it was going to be an uphill climb and knowing that it was going to be for the long haul. And that's what we went into it with. Not blind. We went into it eyes wide open, but knowing it was going to be a long, drawn-out process. It was a risk, and it's a labor of love. The contractors that were brought in to work on the buildings did awesome work. They did excellent work. We were among those. But the ones that weren't us, the ones that weren't in our family, and I mean, my family, they are actually our contractors as well. Like, I mean, most of you know that probably, that like my brother Cleo, who did a lot of some of the work inside there, he does contracting. So it's not like I just mean like we were just, I mean, it was like legitimately we contributed to what you currently see in that building. But everybody outside of us, I'm going to assume, did awesome, excellent work. I mean, we love the building. If people that they've been in the building, they're like, oh my gosh, this is like something you would see in Carmel. This is like something you'd see in Noblesville. This is like something you'd see in Troy. I can't believe this is in Union City. That's the bulk of the people that I am talking to right now, is those people. Like, they're proud of it, happy about it, and wonder what in the world's going on. But it's hard to not be proud of it. When you walk in there, you're like, man, this belongs somewhere else. This is so cool. And Mr. Mayor, I've seen you and Steve and others bring people from out of town through there. And when we had the deli part actually open, that you had lunch there, and they celebrated the quality of the experience and stuff. And these are people from those areas that you're respecting and are 15 years ahead of where I think you guys all want to be in the journey. And I think geographically is pushing out. So that I think it's a realistic idea. So you got this building, and those contractors did such an awesome job, and I'm betting that they sent somebody a bill, and that bill was paid. And those contractors, great as they were, they're friends of mine. I mean, they did the heating and the HVAC, friend of mine. He did not do the heating and HVAC because he loves the Livingstons. He didn't do the heating and HVAC because he was such a fan of Roots. He did the heating and HVAC because that's the business he's in. He was building his own business. He was feeding his own kids. He was looking out for his own future. And somebody paid for that. Any other work that was done by other contractors, same scenario. All of the wonderful fixtures and the flooring and all of that stuff was all provided. And somebody sold those materials. Somebody got a bill for that. And it was, I'm assuming, paid. And so whoever built all that stuff and made the stuff and then installed the stuff and all along the logistical chain, they all got paid. Not because they loved the Livingstons, not because Darby snookered them, not because they were so supportive of Roots, because that's how they make their living. I wouldn't complain about that. Makes sense. You guys all, when you're making these decisions for the city, on behalf of the city, as representatives of us, not as slaves of us, not as automatons of us or droids of us, representatives. Like, you don't owe me. I voted for you to represent me, not to be my mouthpiece, so that like a puppet, so I can just pull your string and tell you what to say. I respect every one of you that's sitting in here because you've put yourselves out there. At least you have publicly put yourselves out there for criticism, open yourself up. Tito, you're one of the main reasons I'm here. And you would probably think that that's a victory. I'm not speaking for you, but I know your values and where you're coming, where I think you're coming from, and you're thinking, okay, this is a victory. This is a good thing. You're one of the reasons I'm here. You're one of the reasons that I'm so uncomfortable right now, and because I don't like to speak like this. But
Sorry.
yeah, but I respect you because you do put yourself out there. I mean, as much or more than anyone. You'll throw yourself out there, and you'll take the slings and arrows, and so. You have never heard me complain about anything that the city has done, ever. I've never. Because I just trust that what you're doing is what you think is best, and you are who has been elected to represent us. And so, I'm not saying that there's never a time that you might need discussion or whatever, but if you did, I certainly wouldn't publicly embarrass you with it. I would text you. I would call you. Like, here's the thing. Right now, the city has accounts receivable owed from Roots to the city. Some entity. I say the city broadly because I don't know how it works. I don't even know. So, whatever entity we owe something to, we do. But we're on the hook for it. That's our bill. The city has an accounts receivable, and we have an account payable. That's never been wiped away. That's never been washed away. It's never been forgiven. And I've never asked for it, ever. The city has a partially and very nicely progressed asset where there used to be a building that literally termites, it was falling in on itself. And my son and my brother and my nephew and myself were in there ripping out the floor and ripping out the second story and gutting it and taking down all the moldy, mildewy plaster and all of those things. And so opening up the walls and getting all of the nastiness out. Like, we did that. We were in there doing that. You never got a bill. We didn't bill the city. That was us doing that, investing our money, our time, our labor, our heart into a building that we would never own by our suggestion, because we wanted to be good stewards of our community, And the thanks that I get is I have to come in here without even the courtesy of a text to say, you know, I noticed you got a bill here. What is going on with that? And I would easily give you the same story that I'm giving everybody now. That where have we enriched ourselves at the taxpayer's expense? The city has a nice building. Everybody who built the building has been paid. The only ones that are still here that have never been paid and are still on the hook to pay is us. What business in Union City has ever operated that way? And what business owner in Union City has ever operated with that kind of goodwill? I mean, I'm sure they exist. I just don't know. I mean, I would just like to shake their hand. I just feel like we have a lot more in common than we have dividing us. And our future is in growth. I bought that. I bought into that vision. All of you have bought into that vision because you vote yes on all of it. This isn't, I mean, that's the part that is so sometimes disheartening to me, is that none of us in this room are spectators to this. We are all active participants in it. And I just feel like, for some reason, I'm not even in the room, and I'm a private citizen, and I'm the one that is, like, being scapegoated on the whole thing. Like, I'm the one that is being required to give an account for what I've done. Well, what I've done is invest a bunch of money into a building that the only way I can get anything back out of it is to keep chugging along and make something work. And all I'm asking for, and all I've ever asked for, and all I need is time. And the amount of money that we're talking about is not in the millions. It's barely in the thousands. Like, this is not a lot of money. And I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for a handout. There have been so many people that have come in here and asked for something. Could I get this? Could I get that? Could I get that? I have never done that. Everything that we have done on this project or any project that we've ever done has been somebody coming to me and saying, Darby, what would you do if you had this building? Oh, I would do this. I think it'd make an awesome brewery. What would you think about this? And I'll tell you that. And do you want to be a part of that? Yes, I would love to be a part of that. That's the extent of the relationship that we've had. And so I am all for it. I'm still here. I didn't give up that vision. I'm not going to give up that vision. I'm definitely not going to give up that vision to a group of people that have made themselves so unlikable that they will never run for office, couldn't get elected if they did, and all they can do is high-five each other on discussion pages through anonymous posts. I don't live for them. I really hope that you guys don't live for them. I really hope that you guys aren't giving up the vision that you think you need for the town because a few people who have complained to every administration that has ever existed found the next one to complain to. Like, that's as negative as I'm going to get, and it really makes me sad because I love this town. And I just don't understand how you can be so negative about your neighbors. What did they do to you that was so evil and so wrong that you have to be so vicious? Like, how can you be that negative, that miserable? Like, none of you guys on this council are that. None of you. You are all generally likable people. That's why you get elected. Like, and so I don't think that, I just see sometimes when I'm watching, the council seems to walk on eggshells sometimes. And it's like, just own your vision. They're crying out for transparency. Transparency is not running around with a camera. Transparency is owning your decisions, and you guys have done nothing wrong. I mean, there's things that could be disagreed with, but that doesn't mean that it's morally wrong. You know what would be morally wrong? Efficiently overseeing the demise of a community. If you guys think that you were elected to manage the morphine drip on the death of our town, I think that you're misunderstanding who voted for you. Like, I speak to a lot of people, and I should say a lot of people speak to me privately. I mean, a lot, and a broad, diverse range of people. we have a lot of customers from all over every spectrum of thought, philosophy, religion, political, everything. Like, we try not to offend anyone till right now. But, however, I think that these people that talk to me, they love their community too. And they're not going to get on social media and say anything. They're not going to probably give you a phone call or a pat on the back. Their pat on the back comes in the ballot box. Their pat on the back comes when they come downtown and do business with businesses just to support them. That's the pat on the back. And so I just think that, yeah, there's a lot of things that people can disagree with, but you're always going to have that. The one thing I hope that we can all agree on is it's not a good idea to let the town go downhill, to let the town to give up that growth mindset, because the alternative is atrophy. If you're not growing, then you are by nature not growing. That's worse. And so what I'm trying to say is we as private citizens with private money have put our money where your mouth is. All I'm asking for is, like, okay, if we're late on a bill, here's the thing. For you guys, that's a number on a ledger. And you're getting paid to vote yes or no on these things. You're getting paid, I believe, to sit here. You're getting paid to make those decisions. And those decisions, as you're making them, you're voting yes for a number or no on a number, and that number is going in a ledger. For me, here's the thing, as a small business owner. Yeah, if I'm thinking, oh wow, we have money coming in here. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to catch up a utility bill. We're going to make a payment on a utility bill. And then our 15-year-old Honda Accord with a rebuilt engine and 300,000 miles breaks down on the side of the road on my wife Amanda, and I got to have that towed, have it repaired. That's our only vehicle, and boom, there went $1,000. Well, that's not a ledger to me. That's not a number on a ledger to me. And I might have some money to fix that and even pay the electric bill. If I didn't put a bunch of money into a building that I am still trying to figure out how to make any money out of, and every 2 weeks I have to wonder what new novel way my name's going to be dragged through the mud while I'm trying to do that. And then you wonder, I wonder if, do customers like them? Do they support them? Well, I don't know. How much bad publicity can somebody get, even if it's wrong, before it starts to affect things? Why would we deliberately want to ruin someone who is invested in the town? Why would you deliberately want that? How deranged is that? I don't understand it. I just don't get it. And so for us, here's where I am right now, moving forward. Hear things about Richmond all the time. Richmond. Like somehow we're taking something from Union City and giving it to Richmond. What could Richmond want with Union City? Like, here's what we're doing. We're taking money from Richmond and using it to eventually get caught up and pay the bills for that building. The money that we are making in Richmond, making the sauces and some of the stuff here, like as a commissary, like you would do for any fast casual restaurant, we're doing it here. It's good. It serves a great purpose for that. It's awesome. So we can charge processing fees to our place in Richmond that will pay this one. But we just now, March was the first decent sized one. We just opened down there too. Like, all of this was discussed privately. Like, it's going to be a little hard for us for the next few months and all of that. And it's like, so I just assume everybody's on the same page and they all know. Okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I see this on here. They're struggling, but we know why, and they'll get it figured out. I just feel like what we have done deserves, I'm not even asking for grace. I think what we've done to this point deserves at least a little bit of forbearance, a little bit of patience, just a little bit. Like, oh, dang, you can't pay your electric bill and gas bill right now? Okay, well, you know what? the next morning, after the last council meeting, and I'm not trying to embarrass you, Mr. Mayor, I really am not, but it's a perfect illustration. I was in there making stuff to sell to Richmond at 7:30 in the morning, and lo and behold, I walk out of the kitchen to grab something out of the reach-in cooler that some entity that has to do with the city purchased, not us, the city, and of which the city still owns. The rumors and all the equipment, the city bought the Livingstons $30,000 worth of coolers. The city bought the city $30,000 worth of coolers, and they are going to get that money back through our lease. So, like, it just, all of these rumors, like, you guys know these things. You can't be subject to the rumors. You're the ones that are in the know. Like, you can't fall for that. Like, yeah, that don't seem right. Those are our assets. Nobody signed any of that stuff over to the Livingstons, over to Roots, over to any entity of ours. All of that stuff is still owned by the city. However, walking out to the city-owned cooler that we just pay on the lease on, that we lease. Okay, so I'm walking out to there, and lo and behold, Chad and the department heads are in the middle room of what you would consider the coffee shop or whatever, having like a meeting. They're, I assume, like some kind of administrative meeting. Here's the interesting thing about that. The lights are on, and I'm being billed for that. I didn't turn them on. How'd they get on? Like, and so here's the thing. I'm not complaining about that. That's what I want. That's what I thought we all wanted. That's what I'm still willing to be on the hook for. That vision, that communal project. That's what I bought into. That's what I'm still at my expense buying into. Like, I just thought it was so ironic. I was like, wow, this is just a perfect illustration. Like, that night, I'm being bashed at a council meeting for being a deadbeat and not paying my electric bill, and the next morning, the city is using the building that I'm paying the electric on. They're wondering why it's not being paid. And it's because, fundamentally, that understanding between us has never been rearranged, altered. The vision has never diminished. It's the same. And so, I don't complain. We do pay the water bill. Every time somebody at Hometown Coffee uses the restrooms that we paid to renovate, and we paid for all of that. We rebuilt those, all the fixtures, everything. We did all that. Every time the water is used for a customer of Hometown Coffee, we pay the water bill. I don't get any revenue from that. That's what we agreed to in the beginning. That's the vision that we have. We want a communal area that's almost like urban, where you got multiple businesses and shared space and all that, and so wonderful. I don't know how many times I walk through and you hear about Preservation Society or whatever using Hometown Coffee. What they're really using is the deli building that we're on the hook for all the bills for, but making no revenue from. And so I'm only saying that not to like pat ourselves on the back or congratulate ourselves. I'm saying that just to let you guys know there is a whole different side to this story that never gets talked about, never gets brought up, because it's not juicy, it's not fun. And so I'm just saying, yeah, we might be behind on a couple bills. Yeah, I own it. I'm just going to suck the wind out of the room. We're struggling right now, like probably most people. But here's the thing, whereas most people are struggling to pay their car payment or whatever, I drive a 300,000 mile car and put money into a building that's not making any money. And so, my plea for you today is time. I'm not asking for forgiveness of the loans or anything, or you know what I mean, like I'm considering it a loan that you haven't, that it's still billed. But I'm not asking for forgiveness of it. All I'm asking for is charge it against the investment we originally made. I don't care, however you want to do it, but here's what I'm saying. I think it's foolish to think that, I understand that you were joking when you said it, at least I hope you think you were, but like you said, doge them, because that's kind of what everybody's saying right now. But you're saying, maybe it's time we cut ties with them. I just want you to understand the depth of hurt that was felt when I heard that, because it's like, what? Cut ties with us? Like, over some past utility bills, when everything that we have, we've invested into this, and we're the only ones so far who've never made anything back from it. And now, after all that, now it's like, oh, well, maybe we should cut ties with them. Well, and do what? Let the building fall back in, or find somebody new to maintain it? Well, that would be convenient. How great is that? Take something that somebody else built, give it to somebody else. To do what? Get current on an electric bill? Like, that's how much we value the citizens that stick their neck on the line for this city. That's how we value them and show them that we appreciate them being here, is at the first sign of any distress, and it's a pretty small distress. I hear the numbers that get thrown around in this building. They're in the 7 digits and sometimes higher, whatever. Like, we're talking about not that much money compared to the numbers you guys are used to dealing with, and you're saying, I am willing to alienate, cut off, and maybe drive the Livingston family out of town over some past due electric bills. If that's where we are, then I might have badly misjudged what I'm trying to do here. So, I won't take up any more of your time. I know I spoke a long time, but it's been a long time coming. I drove them out. So, I don't really want to do questions. If you guys have any questions for me, I am happy to answer them privately. I'm happy to sit down. I'm happy to make you lunch to answer any of those questions. If any private citizen has a question, all you got to do is text me. I'm always like, people are like, well, did you hear about this? I'm like, no, I answer texts. I answer phone. If somebody calls me, but I'm not going to respond to negativity on social media or questions on social media or but anybody that has a question for me, I'm showing you, we are an open book on that. This is embarrassing. Having to stand in front of your peers in your town and tell them, yeah, we're struggling to pay our bills. Like, that just doesn't seem right, that I even have to want to do that. But here I am. So I thank you so much for your time. Once again, I literally do respect each and every one of you for the stands that you take and your love for the town. I believe each and every one of you loves this town. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have bothered coming in. What good would it do? But even Caesar was killed by honorable men. So I just hope that you guys, the things I've said, you take to heart and figure out the best way to move forward with us. And we'll see how it works.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you, sir.
Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to department reports and comments. Amy, do you have anything for the council? Okay. Council members, Tito, we'll start with you.
Yes, so a couple issues that have come up. One is about the sidewalks, and I raised it with Tim because I know that he said that we would be looking into how other towns handle it, and that one of the ideas that we're thinking of doing is something like, one step or two steps back. The way it's done in Indiana and probably many other states is that the homeowners are responsible for repairing the sidewalk in front of their property. And I understand that currently the city is available to help by if you're ready to repair or replace the sidewalk. I think the city is glad to take it out for you. Okay, just so everybody knows. But in addition to that, when someone is unable to do it themselves, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think the city can do it for you, but then bills you because that is the responsibility of the homeowner. Yes, sir.
The city can take out the existing sidewalk and have the site ready for the new walk. But then, yeah, the property owner is responsible for having whoever come in and lay the new walk.
Okay. So the idea that we're thinking is, what if the city were to do the replacement of the sidewalk, and then build a homeowner by like over a certain period of time, something like in the water, and I'll cede my time on that part to anybody who wants to explain where we are on that.
Well, we'd have this discussion because each of us then individually, sidewalks did come up, and that's something I've thought about for a while, because we talked about Greenville, which they assess on the property taxes over time.
Yeah.
And so that's one option we've discussed to see.
Now, if you go through Greenville's ordinance too, their ordinance is pretty tough.
It is,
because
there'd be a lot of
they
people
don't
who go on the
they
hook.
don't necessarily, this isn't an optional thing.
Mm-mm.
We have been pretty soft on ordinance enforcement on
Yep.
sidewalks, and they're I don't know how in practice their ordinance enforcement is on it, but I know how the ordinance is just the black and white of
How it
how it reads. Is it's pretty strict, pretty tough, and then they will they'll force that to be repaired, and then the cost will be, and there's no indication that they bear any brunt of the cost. So I think if we can feasibly continue our plan that we've used, we had some people remember the 50-50 plan we had that was in place when Chad and I first took office, that paid half of the total cost, but sometimes that was a problem from the standpoint of some contractors were limited on their ability to tear out and dispose of concrete and so forth. Cities has the equipment, has the ability, so sometimes there's some more contractors available that can lay concrete that won't necessarily be able to tear it out and dispose of it economically. And it was considered that was half of the cost or more. So then the next question is if we could come up with a way to help in the financing of that. And that's what but bear in mind, if we finance that over a period of time, then that means we have to have an investment in it, because we're gonna have that money tied up.
Right.
And it's not, so we're gonna have to we'd have to allot an amount of money
Right.
to,
Like a facade grant type situation.
almost like what we do with the facade grant, to do that. And which probably right now isn't particularly feasible.
Well, I mean, we've got funds set aside for the facade grant. There's nothing that prevents you guys from switching lanes, for a year or two, if you wanted to, So I don't know what the average sidewalk would cost nowadays. I don't know standard walk.
Yeah, I can't
Just
give
to lay
you the
the-
numbers on that.
I don't know, a couple grand for just a small walk? I mean, probably.
Yeah.
At least.
So, I mean, if that's the case, just basic math, doing 20 sidewalks, not very long walks, but then again, there's a lot of properties that don't have extremely long
Yeah.
sidewalks.
Or
There are
have
some that do.
sidewalks at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like every other year, rotate, maybe you could do like
Facade one year.
2026 would
And
be
you're gonna
sidewalk year.
recover.
Yeah,
2027 would be facade year.
Yeah.
The difference is if you're talking about a loan system, you're gonna recover that money.
right.
It's
So it's
just
gonna
gonna
go
be out
back
for
into
a
the,
while.
yeah,
It's
you
gonna
can
go
put that
back
right
into
back
the
into the sidewalk fund, so
It
the
goes
back
chance,
into the fund.
the sidewalk fund could
Yeah, 'cause the-
eventually be a revolving fund,
Yeah,
and then you could have both that and the facade.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's,
Because I think the sidewalk's one of the first things that people notice.
It is.
When you drive
It is.
into town.
yeah. I was driving through Tipton earlier today because I'm working with a developer down in southern Indiana, and actually she served on county council down there for a couple terms, and she's forged a relationship in Tipton with the mayor, and they're doing some projects, and so I paid a little bit extra closer attention today when I left the IU practice, and their sidewalks are beautiful. And you're right, Bob, I did notice that because they're nice sized curbs, very smooth. Just the walkability, which is actually a rating of communities nowadays. The communities are rated by their walkability. It's quite high. So, so there's nothing that prevents us from I mean, obviously, I think with communication with Amy, because we wouldn't want you guys pulling any more hair out in the office in terms of setting up something like this. But and then also probably bringing in George Castor into the mix, because if there's if the potential exists to do two different avenues, one either pay through your water bill over a set period of time, or pay through property taxes. George would be good to have on this to get his insight and what he would suggest as what's possible versus what's maybe not. Steve, would you want to reach out to George? Cool. We'll set that meeting and we'll present to you guys what we find out from that end, and then if you guys don't mind, between now and the next meeting, be thinking about what you guys think would be equitable splits on facade versus sidewalk, funds from water versus funds from property tax amount, and just kind of what that looks like, and then see if we can't grow it over time. Does that sound fair? Okay.
Yeah,
All right, sorry, Tito. What-
That's great.
I mean,
That
I'll
was great.
talk to some contractors a little bit as I can, because one of the tough things is contractors.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah.
And,
Yeah, because there's a sidewalk down near the school, I think on Walnut, that's been out for some
Yeah.
time now.
and the other thing, and I think one of the things we need to probably tighten up is we need to, there are people that can be, allowed to, or that are capable of pouring their own, there's a few people around, this is a small minority, but a few people that would have facility to have people to, where within their own family or friends or anything that could do their own concrete work. I think we need to set some standards in,
Yes.
so that, for instance, when we tear out, if the city's gonna tear it out, that it's the expectation that within so many days,
Yep.
this is gonna be back in.
Yeah, and curb height and, yeah,
So we probably need to
absolutely.
revisit that a little bit
I agree.
and codify some things.
The other thing I would throw up too is potential, because you might have some contractors in the area who'd be willing to help out if we delineated certain neighborhoods not neighborhoods, property owners where they're veterans or elderly. Maybe there would be some contractors in the area who'd be willing to help. I know I'm not asking them to not make a living, because that's what make a living, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe there'd be some discounts available for
Yeah.
certain segments of the population that would help them.
Well,
That they may want to do that.
And
for.
there might even be some potential of somebody that may offer some volume of scale.
Yes,
Or-
yeah, that too. Yes, absolutely.
That where you
Yep.
have say, hey, if you have 10 sidewalks lined up for me,
Yep.
where I
Yeah.
can come pour,
Yep.
it's gonna substantially cut the
Especially
cost.
if they're
for this.
adjoining.
Well, especially if they're adjoining.
Yeah,
And it'll cut the cost
Yep.
substantially by doing that.
yeah. I think there's probably something that could be really good in the
So
works here.
that could be a potential solution.
Yeah, very good.
But
I have
Super.
a question on that.
Yes.
Since it's been brought up. At one point, did the city have the curb forms that, because it seems like years ago when we replaced all of our walks,
Uh-huh.
it was like the following year, I remember hearing about curb forms that were available to be used, but.
That's a great question. I have no idea. I'd have to ask
I don't
Brad
know.
to see if
To my knowledge, we do not have any concrete forms at all.
Okay.
Brad would be the one that would know where they might be stored if we did.
yeah, I don't know that we do, but
Yeah, I don't know that we do either. So, all right. What else?
So, number 2 is that I know we talked about this a couple meetings ago, Steve, but my question is, is asking, and so I'm going to help out by bringing it up again. So, on the home repair grant, I'd like to know what's the status. I know we've applied. Have we heard anything? Who decides who gets funding? Was a question that there
We
is.
will be awarded a amount. I didn't bring that stuff with me, so I can't tell you exactly what the amount that we requested was, but we will be awarded an amount. The determination will be based on scope of work per property, the amount of money that we received and have to work with, and first come, first served. Every application that we've received has been dated and time-stamped in the order that we received them back. Then the packets were gone through to make sure that they were complete, Associates to basically write the bid specification for the bidding process of the grant.
Does that mean that people who like didn't apply by now are out or like not eligible at this point?
No, because we can continuously reapply. We can apply for this grant up to 4 times a year
Okay. And is there are there application forms available
at the city building.
at the city building? There you have it, folks.
I do have a
Yeah.
question for you. Do you let people, when people ask about the sidewalks, do you let them know that it is the property owner's responsibility?
Oh yes,
Okay, okay,
yes I have.
cool. Yeah, because they are just any of us that we would want our sidewalks replaced. Now, Columbia Street had a brand new sidewalk all the way down the street, but that was a state project.
It was a
So,
state project.
Yeah,
Okay. And someone mentioned Oak Street. How come you didn't?
yeah,
So
so.
the Oak Street's an example of where we have grant funding that
Yep.
does a project, and so some
Yep.
people get a sidewalk,
Yeah,
and
some people are
some
fortunate in that
people
regard,
say,
some aren't.
some people say, is that fair or not? And I go, yes. Is it fair or not?
Yeah, I know.
Don't, you know.
We don't make that rule.
We don't, we're not turning down sidewalks just
Right.
because somebody else isn't gonna get one.
Right.
It's not gonna change anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And my explanation is it's the vision of wanting to get a corridor between downtown and Harder Park / Community Christmas. Right, if we're going to be a regional attraction to people from out of town, we want that. We want those people to also come to our businesses, and we want them to know how to get to our main attraction, I guess,
Absolutely.
at the
Absolutely.
season. So that was the idea behind that.
Absolutely.
My third thing is the city monitoring proposed legislation at the Indiana State House and Senate to ensure that our concerns are being addressed. So I don't know, I may have mentioned it once in passing here at City Council, but I want to read some comments, and this is like 95 or +% completely from a message by the mayor of Napanee. Is that the name of it? Napanee, Indiana, so it's a little bit south of South Bend. And just some people know me for certain opinions I express on my private page. I don't like to bring national politics in here, but just to state that the mayor of Napanee is Republican, and that's a heavily Republican area. Just to say that there's nothing political necessarily or partisan about these comments. So what he's saying is that the state legislature is considering property tax reform. That, obviously on the surface sounds good to anybody who's a homeowner, but in its current form, it would impair the city's ability to maintain the services and quality of life that make Napanee, I would say Union City, special. We in Union City, we're undertaking the development of the Governor Gray new neighborhood there, east of Plum Street. We've got the Vision Corner going on. We are sort of reducing our costs by cooperating across the state line with our neighbors here, part of our community. We have a number of things going that we have engaged in, right, that are going to improve life for the citizens of Union City. The legislation that's under consideration, though, will affect our budgets. For perspective, it creates an immediate, the way it's structured, let's see, so they're going to freeze the maximum levy growth quotient. So that means that the growth in, I guess, the tax base is going to be 0 in 2026, 1% in 2027, and 2% in 2028. So for perspective, this creates an immediate $300 million cut statewide in year 1, growing to $800 million cut of state funds for cities and municipalities like ours. by year 3. These aren't just numbers, they represent potential cuts to services that our residents rely on daily. And so I'm sort of, remember, this is the mayor of Napanee who's writing this. So it's frustrating to me, he says, that people who rarely visit Napanee, think Union City, are hoping to significantly erode the only steady revenue source that local communities control. This doesn't feel like it's about providing property tax relief, more like centralizing power or forcing local officials, that's us, to make impossible choices between essential services. So for Napanee and I believe Union City, these cuts would permanently damage our revenue base with impacts that compound year after year. This bill would force us to scale back essential services or find alternative funding methods that ultimately burden residents. Instead of having a transparent property tax system, we would be forced to make major service cuts or piece together a patchwork of extra fees or smaller taxes ourselves. Like the services we provide, we have to provide them. And if the money for those come from the state and this property tax reform reduces that, then we're going to have to find those money elsewhere or cut the service kind of thing. And he says, and I say, I urge you to contact our representatives about property taxes and the real world consequences for Union City. Our community is on the verge of increased growth and prosperity, and I wouldn't want us to all of a sudden, get the cut kind of thing. So I don't know. By all means, think of different ideas of how to do this, but I know that I haven't looked into it. But I know that sometimes when there are issues like this, cities and municipalities, the city council takes a resolution supporting one thing or another. We might want to think about that. And I'm not going to recommend something right now because I'd like for everybody to sort of get informed on it. And if they think it's important, then we do something.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up. It's getting sliced and diced 8 ways from Sunday right now, and so it's really up in the air. One thing we could, and J.D. Prescott met with us. Gosh, I don't know if that was last November, maybe. I don't remember when he came in, but it's been a while. But because he's obviously very intimate with this whole process, and certainly I don't want to speak for him, but I'd be more than happy to invite him to council meeting because I think he'd be very he's tremendous at what he does, and I think he'd be very forthcoming in speaking to us and giving us an update and where things are at and where he sees things headed. So if you'd like for me to do that, I can do that.
And this plan that Tito's talking about that's being proposed, it's kind of a moving.
Yeah, it is.
It's moving all over the place. In terms of, this is a different vision than JD had for himself. So he's aware of it, he's studied it, he understands it. He's not necessarily going to be probably putting a hard sell on it, but one of the things that was interesting about JD's plan is that his proposed plan, whether you like it or not, a lot of people love it, some people like it, some people think it's insane, but the one thing he was not proposing was a loss of revenue for city, for municipal government.
Correct.
Because he recognizes that for example, Union City went through the tax cap legislation when shortly, when we were early in office, and that was a bit of a chore, but we had a lot of room to modernize and make changes and make cuts and not necessarily make cuts, but be more efficient about how we did things. And in the end, we really enhanced services, I believe. But I don't think that we have quite the same situation now than we had at that point in time, in terms of we don't have room to cut a few $100,000, let alone $1 million out of our operating funds without some serious curtailing of what we do.
Correct.
But, yeah, DD might have some good insights on
I'll
where
reach
that's
out to
going.
him. All right.
And I'm thinking if he comes, maybe we should invite our friends in Winchester
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Lynn, Parker City.
Absolutely.
Be a good idea.
Anything else?
But,
That's all I have.
you know, I'm all about looking at reforms and ways to improve the system and more incentivize moving money. Money does more if it's in the private sector, it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't just wholly sacrifice local government services and expect especially small communities. And one of the things that you look at is that with the escalated values and properties, one of the things we didn't do in the tax cap era was pass the cap on assessments.
Right.
And that's one of the keys to this. One of the reasons why it's where it's at is that we didn't cap the assessments like
Right.
we should have. For
Right.
some unknown reason, people didn't vote for it. I
Right.
never could understand that.
Right.
I did. I voted. But, so now the assessments have gone quite high. We've seen our assessments go up, but in larger communities, their assessments have just skyrocketed. So they're awash in funds.
Yeah.
So this type of thing doesn't, if you're in a city of, if you're in Indianapolis, if you're in Fort Wayne, if you're in various other larger cities, they're awash in money.
Yeah.
So they can talk about cutting out millions of dollars like that, and because they're piled up with money they don't know what to do with almost. And
Send some
we
over
don't-
here.
We don't have that problem.
Yeah. No.
We
no.
don't have that problem.
Not at all.
I don't have anything else.
Oh, okay. No worries. Jason?
I do not.
Bob?
I don't have anything.
Gary?
I have a whole list. Just kidding, I don't have anything.
Saddle up.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Steve, are you good until items new business? Okay. So first on the agenda, unfortunately, we saw Eric and Eric have to leave, but the proposed salary amendment for police and fire, which is the first reading, ordinance 2025-02, which is the salary ordinance amendment. Again, this is for alignment. You'll see where some, you can look at the attachments there for what's proposed per hour.
If it's either, you can just look over here.
Yeah, actually, no, I can see that as this one that page that's in sideways. That one. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, what the one page of interest is the February 25 fire EMS wage proposal and how it lines up against Randolph County, J County. GTES, is that Green? Oh no, it's not. It can't be Greenville. Steve, do you know what those delineations are on the abbreviations on the Eric's page by chance, where he breaks out the different departments? GTES. You know,
Greenville Township.
Greenville Township. Okay.
Township.
I do feel like I have to speak up on part of that.
Yes.
Because when you're looking at the Randolph County, J County, and Greenville Township, those figures are all talking about paramedic, EMT advanced, and EMT basic. In our current salary ordinance, we don't have just those definitions. All of ours under the current ordinance have the firefighter 1 or firefighter 2 attached.
To the EMT.
Yeah, so, it's really hard to just compare those figures because we don't have that currently.
The purpose that they're putting on there is that our personnel are cross-trained at providing both sides of the emergency service. J County EMS, Randolph County EMS, Delaware County EMS. Those agencies are only providing EMS services. They provide nothing except EMS-related support in the event of a fire. Our personnel are cross-trained to do both sides of the emergency service support.
Any questions, thoughts, comments?
And one of the things that if you see the note on here is that we're not listing anything as part-time, and the explanation of that is that the part-time pay will be the same hourly pay as the full-time pay. And we had a little bit of discussion, and I don't know if Amy has any more thoughts on this, that's not really there's not a conflict on that pay rate, other than whether we need to specify in the ordinance that how part-time is paid, just so that we have it clear that there is part-time, that we are specifying people as part-time and full-time, differently, so there's not a.
The one thing I found in this job, it never hurts to clarify as much as you can.
So
Where it gets really muddy, if we were to change all the wording and take out the part-time together, but we still have part-time people, it gets very confusing when you have auditors coming in, because the ordinance needs to match the payroll software, and it needs to match all their personnel files. And if you've got, part-time and full-time on the same thing, but, it gets really muddy. It's like, okay. And then we also have to worry about, are they going to, give us the updates and tell us when they're taking them from a part-time to a full-time. And like I said, it just gets a little muddy waters if we don't have it spelled out.
So what would be your suggestion, Amy, in terms of spelling it out?
Personally, I still think we need to list part-time.
Okay.
I don't have a problem, listing it, but, and then the other, okay, here's another one. I'm a little concerned about how we have firefighter 2 currently, but then they're dropping it down to firefighter 1. So it's like, okay, if we have auditors coming in, they're gonna say, are you reducing, where they're at? There's just a lot of them in here that we don't currently have.
So the firefighter 1, firefighter 2 credential. The firefighter 1 is what is considered the level for a firefighter to function on a fire ground by himself, meaning he doesn't have to be supervised, he doesn't have to be with, an officer. He can function, he can do tasks by himself according to the NFPA in the state of Indiana. That's a firefighter 1. The firefighter 2 level was very attainable and practical to get when the training levels and the training process was vocational in nature. It is no longer vocational in nature. So because it's an accredited process, now departments are stopping at the firefighter 1 level because you got to send firefighters away. It takes months to get the training and the credential. And the information that they provide in the level 2 course is more for what I would identify as like career fire officers, and it's about water supply systems and gets more in depth into investigation and inspection and things like that, which they have specialized courses for those core components of the process. So when you break it out that way, when it was vocational and it was taught in Engine Bay and Randolph County, it was a piece of cake. It's not taught that way anymore. So what they're actually doing is just modernizing our verbiage in our pay ordinance to match what's realistically happening in the environment.
So in other words, so for example, you're probably classed as a firefighter 2, but you would have to, in order to do that same classification, you have to basically take a significant amount of time
It would take you roughly a year to complete.
Essentially a year of college.
Correct. And when I did it, it was vocational, and they taught it back to back to back, and there was no break, and we got done in 7 months, and it was done and over with. So it was just a congruent process of being vocationally trained. That's not what these people are having to go through now. Plus, there's, and I've been out of it long enough, I can't tell you what the costs are, but there's significant cost associated with getting your Fire 1, and then you're going to repeat the cost quotient on getting your Fire 2. So why do that if it's not going to affect you on the fire ground? So there's a lot that goes into it. I'm somebody that historically believes education is a good thing and you should get all you can get. But the state of Indiana, when they changed the training processes for fire and EMS services, really messed things up, because when it was taught local, it was $400, $500, $600. Now it's could be $4,000 or $5,000, and you've got to find somebody to carry the accreditation, and you're paying either a hospital or a Ivy Tech or an IU or somebody to carry all that, and it's a complicated process to deal with. So we're cleaning up the language. Probably moving forward, we'll have very few Fire 2s because a lot of people never make it that far in their career to need that information.
And as you say that, and that's, like say, you can advocate for education, but if it's not education you ever really need, because that extra, if I understand correctly, that extra level of firefighter 2 education isn't going to help you on a fire scene fighting fire
That's
as
correct.
the general firefighter.
Understanding building inspection or code enforcement or any of those components that's part of the Fire 2 is great information, but it doesn't help you put your neighbor's fire out.
And if it did, that would be required.
It would be required, that's correct. So what you need, what Eric is trying to do is clean up verbiage to match the verbiage to what's currently taking place. What our ordinance is currently, it goes back to the start of my career. And that's just not the way training is done. That's not, they're just, it's different now. So all they're trying to do is match it to what's truly happening.
So back to the subject of part-time, Amy, do you, and I'll just pose this both Amy and Steve at the same time, as far as opinion on how we should we do the kind of the long form and list all the different classifications part-time, even though it looks a little redundant,
I would
or
suggest
should
we find middle ground and you just duplicate the same pay structure for part-time employees and full-time employees. All you're doing is copying and pasting and changing the verbiage at the top of the column to be part-time. We're going to gobble up another half a page of paper. That's what.
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to hurt anything, but
No.
we need to, just so we get, does that make sense to you, Amy?
Yeah, it does.
Does that get you where you want to be, I guess? That's
Yeah, and I kind of was hoping more would be here so we could, the add-on pay for the captain and the lieutenants. I mean, I understand how the whole structure thing works, but, that is,
Why are we listing that as an add-on?
Because they're considering it a stipend. Because you could be a captain tomorrow and something occurred and someone else is a captain the next day. By having the rank pay as a stipend to their hourly rate, it's, in their mind, it's a lot easier to move those things around.
And then that's going to apply to whatever qualifications you have.
That's correct.
So it's the $1.75 or the dollar on, whether you're a paramedic firefighter 1 or an EMT firefighter 1. You're
Correct.
You may have somebody that's just an EMT, but you want them in that command position. Okay.
so, since we're on that, sorry,
No.
I don't like to speak in public either, but. So, as far back as I could see, the police side lists one captain, one detective, one sergeant, whatever, but on fire side it doesn't, is that just because of first shift, or how does that?
NFPA requires you have to have at least a captain or rank or higher on duty every day, each shift. So we facilitate that. What we have done historically is we have an EMS captain and a fire captain, meaning their focus of the job is one side or the other, meaning an EMS captain is responsible for protocol testing and EMS supplies and reviewing run reports and submitting for billing and all that. Fire captain is responsible for NIFRS, fire equipment, ordering the turnout gear and the protective gear, making sure the SCBAs are up to code and tested. So they have different roles and responsibilities in the operation. We've typically operated with two because we have a chief administrator and we have two captains, and we meet the NFPA requirement per shift. And at times we've had a part-time officer so that we're compliant when we were working part-time Saturdays. They don't work that anymore because we don't really have enough part-timers that are available to work a consistent rotation. So now our part-timers are sporadic. They fill in for a sick person or an injured person here and there, and it's not consistent.
Just a heads up, Tim Crawford relayed a message to me stating that all our full-time firefighters are required to be a full-time firefighter 1/2.
That's by our local ordinance.
Yeah.
But again, the process is evolving and changing.
Gotcha. So, does anybody feel up to making a motion with the said proposed?
Does everybody understand what the proposed changes are? I guess we better get that clear. I don't want to make a motion on something before. I've got the concept in my head, but I had benefit of a little earlier discussion, and Amy and I have talked about this, so.
Okay, so, all right, back up to what you said. Tim said our current ordinance states that they have to be firefighter
Current
1/2.
The current pay ordinance identifies our full-time personnel as firefighter 2 / whatever their EMS credential level is.
Okay.
But they have to be at least a 1 just to be.
They have to be a 1 to be unsupervised, undirected on fire.
Right.
Unsupervised doesn't sound right because everybody's supervised.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Since I'm completely probably lost here, but do we need to change the ordinance, not the salary ordinance, but do we need to change the description ordinance first to be able to assign a salary to something? We don't have anything to assign a salary to, so do we need to vote on changing the ordinance with the descriptive names to match this before?
That's,
Or is that all?
That all-
It all falls
this
through at
will
the
all
same
do it.
time?
Let's
Okay.
all do it at the same time.
All right. Totally got an argument.
No, you're good. Fair question.
So basically, our amendment is to add the structure for the part-time pay classifications, so we clarify that.
We would just add a part-time section, correct?
And that's, everybody gets what we're talking about there.
Yeah, and you've got like 4 new positions too, or 4.
Well, yeah, but the part-time positions are all gonna mirror the full-time pay rate, because
Yeah.
we've, in outside discussions, we've had this before where we've had a lesser pay for part-time, and I'm the one that really wants to rock the boat when I say things. I'd just about rather pay part-time guys more money because they're non-benefit employees, so they don't cost you anything nearly what the full-time employees are, so I know that's not necessarily gonna be something we do at this point,
We're
but
just trying to get them on the same point.
but-
That's
but-
where we're at.
paying, but we need to at least, it's not unreasonable at all to match the since in this situation, you have people are just as qualified in a part-time position as a full-time position, so it makes sense to pay them the same hourly rate.
So,
I have
Go ahead.
so, If I
Sorry, Ken.
understood Steve's comments correctly, then there is other like, what's a nice word for it? Prose. There's other like description language. There's other language that will be part of the ordinance that we vote on
You mean
to
it-
describe to describe the different positions.
It'll just be a matter of mirroring.
Listed like it's listed in
It'll just
our
be a
ordinances now.
list
It's
of-
just going to be, there'll be things that are different, but it's still going to be a list the way it is described in our ordinance now.
I guess what my concern is, I mean, if we're voting, then I wanted to see like an ordinance, you know, with the little word ordinance up there and a number and, you know, whatever explanations need to be in there, you know, so that we could vote.
Well, I mean, if that's something you guys as a council, I mean, if you want to vote on the first reading today and have the full-fledged version, we do have the ordinance number, it's 2025-02, but, or you want to have the whole kit and caboodle at the next council meeting and vote then. And of course, if you're all here and you're all in agreement on it, and you all vote yes for it, there's nothing that prevents you from suspending the rules and voting again, and basically being as far along as you would be if you voted once today and once the next meeting. So it's up to you guys. It's whatever you guys want to go with.
I'm not sure, quite frankly, we might even be in that position where we wouldn't even have to vote on it today, and this would be still considered the first reading. With some of what Mara had explained to us on other things.
Oh,
I'm not sure whether it applies to this or not. I might be stretching a little bit.
I think
Yeah.
you're stretching it.
I think
yeah. But let's try.
I wasn't suggesting we do that.
No, that's fine.
But like I say, the biggest, in a nutshell, what we're talking about changing is just to adding the part-time verbiage
Right.
that mirrors this in the fire and EMS.
Correct. Everything else is going to look the exact
Everything
same.
else, because the police side is all there
Correct.
as it stands.
So, okay, I got one more question, because are we going to start having just paramedics, EMT advanced and EMT basics? Because currently, we don't have any
No,
employees
yeah.
with that, so it
We
seems.
have had it in years past. We don't currently on the roster, but that has been something that we have had in years past.
So by passing this ordinance, in principle, at some point in the near or midterm future, you would be opening that up for applications, like positions opening.
I'm not that guy any longer, but it would be in the community's best interest to keep our emergency services as flexible and as pliable as humanly possible. If we have a person willing to come and perform paramedic responsibilities and they don't give two craps of a concern about fighting fire, but they want to serve in the back of a bus, we should, as a community, allow them to serve their community in the back of an ambulance, period. It's been complicated to do that. We've had to ask people to go get an additional certification that they didn't really want. And really what we need is good quality employees to serve our citizens.
Yeah. Amen.
So what we have presented to you right now, even though it's a little bit chopped up, getting all the clarity into it, what we've presented to you allows us to do those things. Operationally, it's troublesome if you can't do both sides of the job, but that's easier to overcome, especially when you're talking about somebody with a paramedic license.
So what say you, council?
Personally, I'd like to do the whole ordinance and then do the push through and do the suspension of rules thing for the next meeting.
next
and just
meeting,
do it all
gotcha.
push through
Sure.
at one time.
But we're okay with the numbers.
Yeah, I'm okay with the numbers.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So done. This next item on the agenda, I'm actually going to table because I wanted Mark here after discussion. Tim had some great points last meeting too regarding the workhorse vehicle. The endeavor is still a worthy one, but we think the application of it would be better probably from the police perspective with the ordinance and what they're looking for. So we're gonna, I wanted to meet with Mark and have Mark here before that. So he needs to be here for another thing anyway at the next meeting, so we'll table that one. Moving on to the Board of Works recommendation for the street department vehicle. Tim, are you okay with me turning that over to you? Because I know you wanted to touch on
I
that
can't,
last meeting.
yeah, it doesn't matter, I had the information the last time, and I'm not,
No worries.
doesn't matter, I can,
You guys have it in your packet regarding the proposed dump truck. Let me pull that up.
our street department's been in pretty good shape equipment-wise for a while now, and we've done well in equipment, but we do have one truck that's a 2005 GMC that has served us well, but is in the position where the dump bed is deteriorated pretty badly, but also the cab is deteriorated pretty badly to the point of it's not far from the point where it could be unsafe.
Correct.
Such as a door popping open, and the front mounts have settled, front pillars are settled, and it's just time to get it out of the rotation and go other directions. We've had conversations about new trucks, but we've also then looked at possibilities of used trucks. The used market's not been the easiest because there's just not a lot out there, but the truck that you see in the packet was found with request to a couple of dealers. This is a 2022 F550 Ford.
It's only got 45,000 miles on it.
45,000 miles. It's which is broken in. It's a diesel,
Right.
power stroke diesel engine with a 9-foot dump bed, snowplow equipped from Ford, but not the mount. But as you can see, what total price is $65,422. Talked to Brad after they looked at it and drove it. Said it's like a new truck.
Mm-hmm.
And said he got into it. He says, I thought I was getting into a brand new truck.
Oh.
So good piece, should last us.
Yep.
I don't know. We could run that truck 20 years with
Yep.
proper care.
Yep.
And one of the reasons why the GMC was a problem is it came out of, I think, Virginia, and had some rust issues when we got it. We really didn't realize. That truck's the bane of my existence, by the way. That's a long story, but Chad knows it.
We'll save that for another meeting.
But Brad was making this proposal. As you can see in there, he's got proposed to borrow the money to purchase it. He's got in his line item in his budget. I didn't print that sheet, but line item is $20,000 in replacement per year, and this truck. If I has it, is around $13,000, little over $13,000 a year on a 5-year payment plan.
Correct.
With some pretty good financing from Citizens.
That'd leave him over 6,000
Leaves
in
him
that
over,
line item in the
leaves
budget.
him over 6,000 left in the line item. So it's not an additional appropriation, not
Right.
an additional ask, but and should really get that fleet up to a really good place. Not to say we don't need to do anything in the future, but it puts us in a lot better spot.
I agree.
He has to purchase a $300 plow mount to move the plow from the GMC to the Ford, and the plow that's on the GMC is an excellent plow.
Mm-hmm.
It was purchased after we purchased the truck, and it was a good purchase, and is in great shape. So
Yeah, still got a little life in it.
should give us a really good piece of equipment.
So are any questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Not that you guys care, but we've been working on this for 9 months. It's currently reserved, so please,
Yeah.
we would ask that you don't let it get out from under.
I move we approve the purchase of the dump truck.
We have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
And Amy, if you would, roll call vote, please.
Gary Elliott,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Jason Brewer.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Tina Frias.
Yes.
All right, and next is the RDBG grant, which what we're seeking, obviously, is this is for 212 North Columbia to secure the facade. The proposal submitted is from the new door system to new storefront to stucco of the block columns and masonry face. Safety glass with the windows, and then painting and finishing, and complete with that, with the final design and bidding process, amounts to $96,507. And the RDBG grant is easy for me to say. It's 80-20 still, is it not, Steve? Thank you. And so, yeah, basically to acquire 80% of those funds from rural development, we need to be able to commit to the 20% of the funds, which amounts to, I believe it was 13,000 and change.
I think this is
14, or 14. Thank you.
14,475.
14,475. Thank you. So that's what. But we've not been awarded the grant yet.
Right.
So I need to abundantly state that this is just, we have to have council's commitment in our submission to rural development for
Before
that.
we can apply.
Correct.
Is that from edit or?
Yeah, it would. Well, you'd be either ed or city projects
Okay.
would be proposed. It's to secure that storefront, and so, so that would be that's our ask for your consideration. These grants have been a huge ally for Union City. I mean, anytime you can bring.
Yeah, 14,000 does not seem bad to make that building so it doesn't
Yeah.
collapse.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially,
That's
so-
the key.
And to pull in over 80,000,
Yeah,
that's
we're getting 80,000, so, yeah.
It's our downtown, and it's an eyesore next to our
Yeah.
big beautiful vision corner.
yeah. So
Leave a nasty hole if it were gone,
yeah, it would, and again,
and cost that more than that to get rid of it.
yeah. Sadly, that's the truth. It's depressing, but it's true. So yeah, so that's what I would ask for your
Okay.
consideration and motion.
And
We
the
just-
only way that money is payable is if we do.
If we get the
Correct.
grant.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, yes. Absolutely
I
correct.
thought that was the case, but wanted to clarify.
Yeah. No. Good clarification.
So we do need a motion on that?
Correct. The commitment of funds.
Right. I move that we commit $14,475 to 20% of the RDBG grant.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, mercy.
Give it to
Who's the other one?
Jason.
Jason. Okay. Sorry. Amy, if you would roll call vote.
Gary Elliott,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Jason Brewer.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Tina Frias.
Yes.
And this isn't on the agenda, but I wanted to at least throw this in there real quick. Just the announcement. I should announce there in my section that very happy to report that NDOT has completed in the review and submitted project for our community crossings grant for Division Street from Walnut down to Mulberry for paving, and we were awarded that. So that goes into the bid phase now. So we were awarded that grant for community crossings.
I'm sorry. Is that Pearl?
No. Division.
Oh, Division.
It'd help if I'd say the right
Or Street and Town.
street.
No, you said division. I
Yeah.
just.
I'm sorry.
From-
So
yeah,
from Walnut to Mulberry. Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously down the line to finish that all the way out to the park. So, but yeah, so that was good news. Emergency repair for the water plant alarm dialer. You want to tackle this one?
No.
At least you're honest.
So we've been very lucky to date. We have a really large water treatment plant upgrade. It's hopefully going to be starting very, very soon. But that being said, the alarm system that is wired to all of our components in the water treatment plant is analog, and it is no longer serviceable, and it has failed completely. So we have it kind of hot wired together presently, but it's not broken down into components. It's kind of grouped together. So the fix is to move to a digital cellular dialer alarm system. That will be something that can be seamlessly worked into the new plant project. We're just going to have to do it earlier so that we can get our plant back up and operating with alarms, so our personnel know when they're not on duty or at work what's going on at the plant. If we don't repair it, then we got to be in the plant every couple hours to check and make sure everything's still safe and working. So we've gone ahead and got on the Torix calendar for the repair. They were going to try to be here last Friday. I don't know if they made it or not. I'm not sure if the repair's done yet as of now, but it'll be done very, very soon. I just wanted you guys to know that we're going to have to spend about $13,000 to fix it because it's just too old to maintain it.
So, can you, I mean, I don't know if they understand the whole, what it does when it fails, and, you know,
That'd be good to
why
know.
it's such a big deal, because, or do you want me to talk? I just hear, you know, what I'm hearing from Brad and from Steve. You know, when this system started failing, and please correct me, because I'm sure I'm gonna blow this, but what was happening, it was showing the water levels were just going.
Yeah.
It was gone.
Yeah.
So it was setting off all kinds of alarms, and, you know, we kind of need to know what's in there,
Our
because
guys would
if
come
this,
in, they'd be looking at what's going on and find that the water towers are perfectly full, but the alarms are saying that they're empty, and things are going up and down, and they fix everything, they reset it, and even before they left, they were reactivating the alarm. So we've just been chasing gremlins in the whole system.
so it's kind of like calling wolf, you know, if we don't pay
Right.
attention to it,
Yeah,
and we let it go,
thinking it's okay.
But-
and then
Yeah.
we have a real problem,
But it
they're
can
gonna
go, yeah,
think,
say
oh,
it
well,
can
it's
go the
just
other way.
messing up.
It can go the
Yeah,
other way
so-
pretty quickly and be very costly.
Exactly.
And like I say, one of the things that to reiterate what Steve said about this equipment will integrate into the new system, so it's not good money after bad by any means at that point. Is that it's not going to be set aside and $12,000 thrown away because when the new plant or when the new rehab of the plant happens. So at least it integrates in. That was the first question I had when that came up with this and what we had to do, and it was that no, this integrates right into the new system. So
Yeah, we're going to new modern technology. It's going to be a little clunky to wire it in because all our equipment
Yeah.
on our side is analog.
it's all analog. But
There is a patch, and then it'll be permanently connected once we're up and running with the new plant.
We need a motion on that?
Correct.
So I'll move we authorize the expenditure of $12,552 for the replacement of the alarm dialer at the wastewater system.
We have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Amy, if you would, roll call vote.
Gary Elliott,
Yes.
Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Jason Brewer,
Yes.
Tim Heiss,
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
All right, and then last item on the agenda, Vision Corner, Director Benefits for the second quarter of this year. And we're fortunate to have our Executive Director of Vision Corner in the room with us, Steve James. And Steve, I didn't touch base with you before the meeting. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything or if you wanted to make yourself available for questions.
Yeah, I'll just answer any questions that you may have of me.
Super. And there are some cool things in the pipeline right now. I know coming up for Vision Corner, we have the pitch competition coming up in April.
Yep, so we'll have the 15th and 16th, they'll have the open house. Again, all the school systems, the rest 32 schools will be here along with distinguished guests from around the state. And then the 16th is a pitch competition. I think there's 8 participants or teams this year, so 2 more than last year.
Awesome.
And again, last year, if you were around, I mean, that was a great, just great recognition. Obviously, we had that with the grand opening there as well. So yeah, that's coming up here in another month.
And fingers crossed that Lily makes their way in with a couple reps on
I'm trying.
that first. Yeah, I know. I saw the correspondence with Lisa. So yeah,
It's been challenging trying to get into this to get a contact at Lily to at least show them what we got.
yeah, because they're huge on our radar because this project is completely aligned to Lily with what their endeavors are and what their goals and mission, and so. They have been for some time now on my radar as a major seed. How do I say this? Basically, a springboard, if you will, for this entire project, and getting everything where it needs to be, it's supposed to be, and needs to be. So, so we're going to stay that course, and we were told early on that they only go right around Indianapolis and the surrounding region. Well, no, they've awarded money to Michigan City. And significant money to Michigan City. So they will step outside when they see projects that they see value in. And this is that kind of project for this county that will bring those dollars. So we'll keep you updated as we progress. So and ready, we just had a meeting with Brian Sheehan finally earlier this morning, with Steve and I did earlier this afternoon, I should say. And they said within the next 1 to 2 months we'll have all of our Ready 1.0 funds finally hitting our account. So yeah, thank the Lord. So anyway, so I would ask for, obviously you've got the funds there to review, or the different portions of that to review. I asked for this to be done on a quarter by quarter basis because that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're on an aggressive plan right now in terms of our capital drive and what we're seeking to achieve. And so I want to make sure we keep things in bite-sized increments for you guys to review. And this, make no mistake, this has been, Vision Corner continues to be a part of our economic development. It's become our economic development tool. With prospective companies that we're bringing in, we meet them in Vision Corner. And they get to see behind the scenes, because one of the biggest things, and I shared this with you guys, I didn't share it with everybody else, everybody likes to have transparency. Well, everybody knows, so everybody knows, Bob, Susan, Alex, and everybody else watching and listening, I sent you guys an email about one of the biggest things that companies are needing right now, and where they establish themselves or where they choose to grow, is the ability to have not only employees but training and development and education. That's a huge thing. And so, the couple things we're working on right now, they need apprentices. And one of the programs that Steve didn't even really, because Steve's got a lot of things in the fire, he's too modest to share with you, but one of the things he's working on too is leadership training, because we're lacking leadership in this area. We're lacking people that are willing to step up. It's armchair quarterbacking will always have the biggest success rate in the history of the world. Always. But to have people to actually step up and put themselves out there and lead different initiatives, or lead companies, or lead departments, or lead, you name it, we need that. So that I make the pitch for the benefits package, because the school, and specifically the Next Gen grant, is what covered his salary this year and next year. The Next Gen grant, which Vision Corner helped play a role in the school security. My pitch is for the funds for this Q2 to come out of edit, because this is economic development in its fullest sense. So I don't know what the exact figure is.
5687.
There you go. Thank you.
58. Excuse me.
You all right? You need some water?
No,
Okay.
it's been a rough week.
Okay. Sorry. Well, that's bad, because today's Monday.
No, the past.
Hold on.
Okay. So I would, either, if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Vision Corner Director's benefits for the second quarter of 2025 in the amount of $5,687.58.
We have a motion. We have a first. We have a second.
I'll second.
Amy, if you would roll call vote.
Gary Elliott,
Yes.
Bob Lane,
Yes.
Jason Burr,
Yes.
Tim Heiss,
Yes.
Taylor Burgess.
Yes.
All right. Do we have any visitors wishing to address the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
This is with regard to Vision Corner.
Yeah.
What is the Reed building that is referred to in the packet?
That's a great question. That's not part of Vision Corner. That is the building up here on Oak Street between.
Okay.
Yes.
Where the dentist is gonna go.
Yes.
Good, super.
Steve, could you give us an update on that?
Trying to find contractors that'll go in there and start working.
Okay, because that was also a rural development grant, correct? That's already been awarded.
That grant's been awarded, there's
Yeah.
about $80,000 left to spend, they've put a roof on it. We've got the electric reinstated, the sump pumps are working. I'm looking for a demo contractor that will come in and demo the basement.
Super.
And then they've hired, I believe, Whitewater Valley Construction out of Richmond or New Paris area-ish to come in and do the masonry work on the back wall.
Good.
And the back foundation. And then it'll move to windows and doors until that grant's gone. And then the building will be transitioned back to
The dentist.
the dentist.
What's awesome, she's bilingual, the dentist is. And what's awesome, that building originally was slated for demo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is something that economic development people have been working on for at least 15 years, right? Trying to get a dentist.
Yes.
Now we're looking for a vet.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So please, if you know a veterinarian and we're willing to think outside the box, you should know that. So,
We thought outside the box, and then 208 hit.
yeah.
We had a guy that was willing to, we found a building,
Oh, man.
Oh.
and he was willing
All
to.
for the dentist?
For a, no,
Or
not a dentist,
a vet?
No,
Right.
I talked to dentists, and they said, sure, if you'll give us $500,000, pay off our debt, we'll, and then help us buy the equipment.
That's kind of a
But
deal breaker.
anyway, I am just really happy about that. You made my day when you said Reed. Well, as that building, because I couldn't figure it out.
Right, yeah, no, good question.
And the
And
other-
you,
What are you envisioning in the building that you're putting the facade on? The old
212?
George Green Jewelry.
Yeah, 212. We're working on that because
More
we've talked to
training?
entrepreneurial. Yeah, it's got to be something in development, entrepreneurial space, incubator space, something along the lines growth oriented, not some pop up business. It's got to be
Okay.
development.
And the other thing, used to be painted black, and that business went.
Yes.
So I saw you're doing a lot of maintenance, and it's called painted black. Is that?
Let's just use the address of the business.
You have a plan for that space?
Yeah, here it is. Here's the lease agreement. Blumenstock Photography. So yeah, so photography business, going back in there and yeah. So I mean, this is redevelopment contract that was developed for Blumenstock, and they've signed it. So we're waiting on
So we got
Brandon
another
Elmore to sign.
business.
So yeah. So and the Reed building. Going back to that, do you guys know the significance of that name?
I've heard it, but I forgot.
That's the actual Reed that started Reed Hospital down in
That was,
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
same family.
Spelled that way.
Same family.
Yeah, family. That's I just think that's awesome. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of screwy that way, but that Reed Hospital has connections to the Reed building here in Union City. Same
but
outfit, and it's going to
not
be a medical.
Hospital is going to be sponsoring this.
They're not sponsoring that. No. But it's kind of cool. There's a medical
It's
need.
kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. There's a medical need going in
Might
there.
even get their foundation to
Well,
kick in bucket, you know?
they've given over $500,000 for equipment over here.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think they're all in on it.
they are, yeah, because they've been huge. But great question. Thank you for that. Anything else? If not, the day of the next council meeting is Monday, March 24th at 6 p.m. The day of the next public works meeting is March 24th at 1:45 p.m. and the date of the next economic redevelopment meeting, if we have an agenda, which we don't at the moment, is March 19th at 6 p.m. I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
So,
I'll second.
We have first and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.